Hi, my name is Christopher Dane. I played McKean, the mission control in Kill the Moon. You're listening to MarkWHO42.
Welcome to MarkWHO42's universe. Woohoo! We are going to do something we haven't done in a while. Well, we did a little bit earlier, but now we are going to review Doctor Who. Yes, our show, MarkWHO42's universe, used to be MarkWHO42's Whoniverse, and we're going back just for a couple episodes because season 1 or series 40 or series 14. We don't know which one we're calling it. We're just saying the Ncuti show. Now, I just want to tell everyone, we're going to let me introduce everyone first. First, we have Vicky Jakubowski. Hi, Vicky.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Have you been enjoying so far? Short answer, Doctor Who.
Yes.
All right. We also have direct from Orlando Fringe. It's Juan Sanmiguel. Hey, Juan.
Hello. Unfortunately, this is a packed weekend. I just got off from the Orlando Book Festival to promote my local science fiction club, Orlando Science Fiction Society, and now I'll be working a Fringe shift and then seeing some Fringe shows later in the day.
Sweet.
And if you don't know what the Fringe is, it's independent theater, 1 act, 1 hour plays dealing with all sorts of topics.
All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to join us today. Now, I want to say something first out of the hat. You know how everyone's been saying Ncuti Gatwa?
Yeah, you corrected it.
To
that's your story.
Ncuti. There's an N and then a pause and then Ncuti. I just want to put that out there because we've said it wrong, just like Ncuti has been for years. And so we have it right now. His mother told him. We now have the answer. So the show it's on Disney Plus here in America and around the world and on BBC One and the iPlayer in England. And I want to get the elephants out of the room. We have a few elephants in the room that I want to talk about. First of all, we are considering this season 1. They're considering this a franchise reset. I'm going to ask your opinions of it in just a second, guys. But let me just read you a quote that Russell T Davies gave to the Rolling Stone. Who is interested in season 67 or whatever it is? It genuinely starts again. The reason it survived for all these years is that every so often, Doctor Who stops, opens the door, and refreshes itself, and gets a new audience in. And there are children who will come and watch this, who will be me in 20, 30, 40 years' time making this stuff. Okay, what do you guys think of that, and what do you think of going back to season 1?
Vicky, you want to go first? I might have a longer take on it.
On the spot. Folks, they have no idea what I'm going to be talking about this episode, so go ahead, Vicky.
Well, you see, I don't know if I feel like it's a reboot. I guess I could see where.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's call it a franchise reset. Let's go there. It's not a reboot. It's a franchise.
Well, I guess because we've had that a couple of times now, and in that respect, okay, sure. And this series has found ways to reinvent itself on multiple levels in multiple ways, and I have found ways, and I think I've said this before, that I've always found something that I have enjoyed about it, and I always come back for more. So I kind of don't care. Reboot it all you want, babes. Right. Keep it going.
I mean, if you think about it, every time there's a new Doctor, there's a soft reboot or franchise reset.
I mean, just going from the first Doctor to the second Doctor was a complete reinvention of the wheel because they had to figure out how they were going to do this and how they were going to keep the show going. So, in essence, they were like, "Oh, what are we going to do?" So they found a way to do it. they constantly were reinventing this show, and I think that's the nature of the beast. So what? Keep doing it.
Season 1 is just a number. It's not the show. It's a number. Okay, Juan, you said you had.
I think they're just stressing it too much.
Yeah, Juan, you said you had a long answer for this. Go for it.
Well, no, the thing is, I think it's complicated. I don't know why he said that, because he's trying to get more people to watch the show, reassure them it's a new show. And to me, it's no big deal. I mean, it's a new doctor, a new producer, so obviously there's going to be changes. I don't think the show has suffered any. Excuse me, not the right word. I don't think the show has had a great reboot, like say in 1970, where they decided to go to do unit and Earth-based stories.
Yeah.
I don't think the show has had a big of reboot as that. Even when the new modern show came in, it more or less is the same format. The doctor comes to a place, he solves the problem, moves on to the next problem. We haven't gotten a series of stories which are base under siege, type of stories like in the 60s, or we're not doing the key to time or heavily. Well, I guess with the Flux he did it heavily serialized. So I think he's trying to say something to tell people, to get more people to watch the show, not to be scared by the show. But when I was, I will end with this. When I was a youngster in 1980 and getting into Doctor Who, got Doctor Who magazine, and I've found out more about the show. I wanted to see these episodes. Of course, half the episodes I wanted to see were no longer in existence at the current time in the BBC, but I wanted to see all these John Pertwee stories they were talking about, at that time, we still hadn't seen the 3 seasons of Tom Baker. So some people will want to know about the whole history of the show. Some people will just want a whole piece of it and move on.
Yeah. Okay. Valid points from everyone. Next elephant, Disneyfication. I got to say something. I have changed my mind on Disneyfication. I thought, yes, they were going it. I don't think they are. Let me give you the definition of Disneyfication. And yes, this is a lecture. The commercial transformation of things like entertainment or environments into something simplified, controlled, or safe, reminiscent of the Walt Disney brand, such as media, theme parks, etc. The process of stripping a real place or thing of its original character and representing it in a sanitized fashion with taking out references to anything negative or inconvenient, and the facts are simplified with the intent of rendering the subject more pleasant and easily grasped. I'm pretty sure we didn't get that. No, we didn't.
And I would disagree with that definition.
Okay.
Because, everyone talks about Disneyfication, and although in some of the later years, like in the 90s, they did take a lot of fairy tales and give them happier endings than they actually had.
Okay. Well, I didn't say there's no such thing as Disneyfication. I just, didn't say there was no such thing. There is.
Well, you see, I don't know if I agree with that, because, people say, oh, the Disney versions of stuff. And it's like, Disney used to have some very dark stuff.
That
and
is
it
true.
really wasn't until more modern times that there was a period of really soft, light, and fluffy Disney.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go into this. The reason I don't feel that Disneyfication of Doctor Who doesn't exist is, when Disney bought Pixar, and Jobs was afraid, you're gonna take us over. Iger and Disney said that you will have autonomy, that they can do what they're doing, but they're just owned by us. Then Lucasfilm, same deal. Then Marvel, same deal. Has Marvel become Disneyfied? No. So I don't think there, and going back on what I said, I really don't think you're right. There is no such thing as Disneyfication, because I don't see it happening. I got this part from MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios. That's how I found out about the autonomy, because I've been reading lovely books about Marvel comics. Juan, what do you think about Disneyfication? Do you think it's there? Do you think it's not?
I'm going to give you the smart-ass answer. I think the fart joke in Space Babies ended that possibility. It's not. This seems like RTD Part 2, so I'm not seeing any major change in the show. So, and I do believe there is such a thing as Disneyfication. Something to make it more commercial. I think Vicky talked about it. I mean, particularly Hunchback of Notre Dame and what built the Disney Renaissance. The Little Mermaid definitely had a happier ending.
Yeah.
So it's there.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, Sleeping Beauty and all those stories were lighter than the original stories. So, I mean, okay, Disneyfication from the beginning, I guess. There's another interesting thing. We're going to get to the first episode. We're going to cover in a second. An interesting thing about a reason that Disney is distributing Doctor Who, and it's a fascinating, interesting. You know how Steamboat Willie has gone public. It's no longer Disney because it's 95 years after it started. Okay,
Yep.
so Disney's about to lose their brand. Mickey Mouse is going to go. Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy. They're
versions of it.
Versions of it. But now that they have Marvel, now that they have Lucasfilm, now that they have Pixar, and yeah, I do think at some point, if this works out, they're going to try to buy Doctor Who. I think they're trying to reinvigorate their brand because only versions of Mickey Mouse, but it's still, has Mickey Mouse changed that much?
Oh yeah, Mickey.
Yes.
Look at Steamboat Willie
Massively.
Look at Steamboat Willie and look at Fantasia. And that's only a space of 20 years.
Okay. Well, okay.
The only copyright they lost is the very early version of Mickey Mouse.
But soon, the next version of Mickey Mouse will go because he did change. Yeah. All right.
But I think, and Vicky might know this better than I do because I think she knows more about Disney. That the characters are trademarks, so I don't know how that'll work.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't think. I think it's kind of hazy there, and they're determined because they're also company mascots. So I don't So
right, they're able to utilize them in certain ways, and they can no longer stop people from using them. But that said, it's not like they're losing the characters.
That's true.
And even with, I mean, because the horror company that is out making these actually not terribly good horror films, the Winnie the Pooh ones, and then
I was going to bring that up. Yes,
they're actually not diluting the Disney company at all.
All right.
And so I don't think that they're not going to have a problem. The Fab Five, as they call them, no matter what happens, it's not going to hurt them.
Right.
It's just, but Disney wants to be the best, and so they want to make sure that they have, and they don't want to just be. One of the things that they learned from some of the missteps they made in the 80s when they tried to branch out into different age groups is that they do want to have different age groups, and they do want to have different companies. They have ESPN and ABC and all these different things, and they just inked the deal with Warner Brothers streaming. God help us, what the heck that's going to mean.
Okay.
That's Warner Brothers, HBO Max, Discovery. God only knows what the heck that's going to mean, because that's going to be an entire cable company onto itself now. I don't know what the heck that's going to mean.
Okay.
But I think that they just want to be the biggest and the best.
Okay.
And that's why they want to have it. And if it's a popular brand, such as Doctor Who, and I think that they realize that putting money behind it, because look what they did to the MCU. The MCU had difficulties with movies other than like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. They put money behind it, and now it is a conglomerate.
Well, yeah, read the book. But at the MCU, the Reign of the. Okay, guys, we're gonna take a break. What I was just talking about, something that Jared Cooper and I, the runner, the now gone Hurricane Who convention, him, Juan. Jared and I were talking about that, and I just thought I'd bring it up. Let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to get to the reviews, and we are going to start with, and yes, it's not Christmas anymore. But in order to follow what's going on in season 1, we need to talk about it. So when we come back, we'll be talking about the church on Ruby Road, and we'll be right back here on MarkWHO42's Universe.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more MarkWHO42 after this.
Get ready for the ultimate geek experience right here in the Sunshine State. Florida Geek Scene presents a full calendar of events and conventions. From anime to horror, we've got it all. Meet your favorite stars, find rare collectibles, and immerse yourself in your passions. Experience the thrill of cosplay and witness amazing live performances. Stay up to date with the latest news and reviews all across Florida. Florida Geek Scene, where pop culture happens. Visit us online for more. Don't miss out on the fun. Join us at Florida Geek Scene, floridageekscene.com.
Hello, geeks and geekettes. I'm Steve Megatron, and if you're looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of geeky topics, then check out Altered Geek. Altered Geek covers superheroes, Star Trek, pop culture, comics, film, television, animation, gaming, tech, and more. So check out Altered Geek and get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks every Friday on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, and the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are listening to MarkWHO42's Universe.
Welcome back to MarkWHO42's Universe. We are talking all about the new Doctor Who series with Ncuti Gatwa. And I said we were going to start, because it all flows together, with the Christmas episode, The Church on Ruby Road. And, you know, in the years before, when we were MarkWHO42's Whoniverse, Trish would sometimes give a one-sentence synopsis for us. Well, I've asked Juan to give us a several-sentence synopsis. Juan, tell everyone what this episode was about, the Christmas episode.
Okay, and I'm doing a 3-sentence synopsis.
That works.
The Doctor meets Ruby Sunday. Goblins take a baby. The Doctor and Ruby go to get it back or rescue it.
That is succinct. Very good. Reminder, everyone, the Doctor is played by Ncuti Gatwa. Ruby Sunday is played by Millie Gibson. Davina McCall is in this episode. She plays herself. She is the presenter of The Masked Singer in the England and Big Brother UK. And her voice appeared on Bad Wolf, the episode from series 1 of the 2005 reboot, is that what we're calling it? Davinatroid. Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson, who was Angie Watts on EastEnders. Oh, I love her. And Mrs. Sir Brian May. Carla Sunday is played by Michelle Greenidge, and Cherry Sunday is played by Angela Winter, who, if you watch EastEnders, plays Yolande, who I'm not really sure if she's still playing it. There was a thing that happened last month, and I kind of haven't got to that yet. All right, here we go. Let's talk about this episode. So the season arc seems to have started here. It hasn't, and it's not the season. That's why I brought it back. What did you guys think of this episode?
I think it was a pretty good Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's your standard thing. I mean, I think you could have done it at any time. It just hits the feels if you do it during Christmas time.
Right.
But it was a fun story. It was having a little bit of fun. I mean, I think it was a little bit of light to it. I think we're starting off light and then going into heavier aspects. But that's mainly what I thought about it. I mean, I think it was a good way to introduce the companion, and obviously the big mystery is who is Ruby? What is her origin? I think that's going to be the big. It's either going to be the big payoff at this season or perhaps the next season, since Ruby is going to be continuing on.
Yeah. Vicky?
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was fun. It was poignant. It was funny. I have nothing wrong with it, with an episode that is both funny and poignant, because the story of a mother and her daughter and Ruby and wanting to know her roots and who she is. I think that stories like that always get to me. And then there's the fact that, I mean, the goblins are just hilarious, and I love them.
Yeah.
And frankly, the only thing I was missing was David Bowie. That would have been awesome. I'm sorry. I'm partial. What can I say?
You got him on the trailer. But yeah. Okay.
I know. I need help. But that's kind of where I was feeling.
Okay. And I have a question for you, because, it's been brought up in this season, and I think it started in this one. Ruby is an orphan.
Yes.
And we're now considering the Doctor an orphan. So we've actually grasped and holding on really tight on the Timeless Child. It looks like, it seems like 100%.
I don't hate the Timeless Child idea. To me, at least I see it as a thing that it's a thing that overlays with what happened before. It doesn't contradict, in my opinion, what happened before. It wouldn't have been my choice. I mean, it seems a lot of people think that Chibnall, for whatever reason, was obsessed with the faces that you saw in the mind-bending contest in Brain of Morbius, but it doesn't bug me if they want to stick with it. It doesn't bug me if they want to get rid of it. I'm very neutral on the subject, and I'm very cool about it. That's me.
Okay, I didn't like it when Chibnall wrote it, but you know what? I think it's going to work with RTD tweaking it. I think we have a shot of making it good. The fact that he didn't drop it, if you just drop it, that would completely ostracize it, and everyone would say, "Oh, that's the worst period of Doctor Who." Oh, no, it's not. There's been other points. But yeah, so I think the Timeless Child could work in this instance. I think it has been working. What they've been talking about through the season so far has been going. So I'm giving it a shot. I don't hate it anymore. All right. Now,
I never hated it. But that's because I like, I don't know, I like weird, I like twists, I like turns, I like conundrums. And so I was interested to see where it was going to go. And I like the idea of, maybe we can get a deeper pass at it. Maybe we can get more information. Maybe it can be, well, kind of like what you said. Maybe we can get some, maybe we can get it fleshed out, and we can get some better than more or less what we're getting, what we got initially. I almost feel like we got this like glossed over. but some of that was poor Chris was stuck with the fact that so much of what he was working on got so slashed
right,
by the cut down seasons, and they cut down budgets due to everything that was going on in the world, that I don't know what we would have gotten if he had been given full free reins.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't know if we should go any further, because I think that's one of the criticisms Andrew Cartmel had when he came on board, that we knew too much about the Doctor. So maybe if we leave this as a mystery, at least for a while. I mean, maybe a couple of years, maybe 10 years.
A little mystery does. Well, we didn't know about what the Time War really was for a while. So yeah, I mean, RTD can definitely do that. He's done it in the past.
You like a little mystery. I agree.
A little mystery is good. It was interesting that they brought Davina McCall onto the show as herself. I don't think it was stunt casting. She actually has this show called Long Lost Family, which is a show where you try to bring lost families together, and it's basically what Ruby was on. So it was. Yeah, I don't think they actually called it Long Lost Family in the episode, but it kind of was. All right, the goblins. Magic? Are we in the world of magic finally? Is something that the toy maker, something, the arc, that maybe it started before this with magic in the world? What do you guys think?
I'm not getting too uptight about it.
No, I'm not uptight. I'm actually enjoying this. Go ahead.
But the thing is, I'm not worrying about is it magic, is it science? I mean, I would prefer science, but at the same time, I just feel like sometimes, Doctor Who has rarely gone into real detail on how something really works.
Right.
So we don't need to know exactly how, the Goblin technology works, except it has an analog with ropes and stuff. So that's all I need to know.
Okay.
The only thing, in general, what both fantasy and science fiction demands is consistency. Once you set it up, the rules, you can't break them.
Right.
And, in this story, you set up some rules about how the goblins function, how their ship functions, and you have to stay in consistency with it. And it did. So that's my take.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, they actually, later on in the episode, the Doctor, I think he was trying to convince himself more than anything, said it's not magic, it's a language, it's a spitfire of physics. But I think he was trying to, I don't think that's what it was. In fact, I like the fact that it's magic because it brings up one of my theories. dealing with the toy maker, dealing with the soon-to-be named Pantheon. Could we be in the land of fiction? Could the toy maker have shunted us over to the land of fiction? Because a lot of there are things that are happening that kind of happened on the old series. They're like retreads of the exact same things, beat per beat. Maybe this is a fictional version of Doctor Who.
Well, can I take actually, there's something, because I recently re-listened to a podcast.
Okay.
It's called Doctor Who, The Missing Episodes, and discussed the Celestial toy maker. And they, the Celestial toy maker was a little bit more fantastical. The Mind Robber seems to bring it in because the land of fiction, it turns out, it's being run by a computer, at least at that time.
At that time,
run by the computer. We don't know what would. I know that they went back to the land of fiction in the New Adventure book series, so I forget how that laid out. So I don't.
And it was also, I think, in Big Finish as well. I think.
Yeah. So I don't. So the thing is, Doctor Who always kind of comes back to science in one way or the other. I mean, it's not going to be something as hard-boiled as an Andy Weir novel, the guy who wrote The Martian, but it's. I don't think we're going into complete. Everything is done by a consistent magic system. I don't think, or maybe it is a consistent magic system. We just don't know what the tech is behind it.
Yeah. You bring that up because when the Doctor tried using a sonic on the ship, and he actually said "wrong world" before he mentioned the fact that they were ropes that were tied. He said "wrong world," and that also stimulates my thoughts that we're not in the real Doctor Who world, and this could be the idea of the story. What did you think about the new sonic screwdriver? I mean, it's not a gun anymore. It's not a gun anymore.
Vicky, you want to take that? I've been taking point for a bit, and I have an opinion.
I don't know. I liked it. I liked it. I thought it was kind of cool looking, and I felt like we needed to make a big shift. We hadn't had a shift in a while, and it just I just felt like it was time for a big change, and we need those once in a while in the show. And I like the fact that it goes back to, I like a good mystery. I like a good what if. And when we use the word magic and differences and what are we in and what are we not in, I always think about the fact that when how many science fiction movies have we seen, or TV shows, where they talk about what we used to call magic we now call science. So what we now call magic will in the future they call science. And so there's so many what ifs and who's it's and what will it really be. And to me it's kind of going like, ooh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be really great. And so the sonic screwdriver being different and unique and special just kind of feeds into that for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now I'm gonna the fact there was okay. Go ahead.
No, my thought is, look, I respect J&T. Excuse me, God, J&T. No, I respect
we're
RTD.
Bringing J&T into this now. Okay.
No, I respect RTD. You can keep that in.
I'm keeping it in. You're grounded on this one.
No, but anyway, I respect RTD. But to me, the sonic screwdriver never looked like a gun. I don't know where he's getting that from.
Well, I mean, you pointed at someone and aim it at someone, so it's sticking out like the barrel of a gun.
I politely looked like a screwdriver. Well, okay, one time for a half a minute.
At one time.
I politely disagree with him, but that's his call. I mean, now in the modern era, it seems like we agree that, when the Doctor comes into being, he's going to make his own sonic screwdriver, just like Jedis, get their kyber crystals at a young age and do their own lightsaber. And I accept that. And to be honest, and unfortunately, if you want to be cynical about it, it could be a merchandising grab.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it distinguishes each Doctor individually. So I've got no problem with. I don't have any problem with the design. It seems a little bit bulky, by my opinion. But I think he was overreacting. Maybe he was just. I don't know if he really believes that or not, but he said it in print.
Right.
But it is what it is, and I like it. I mean, I'm not.
Okay.
It's not. It's not a hill I'm going to die over about.
All right.
Changing the son. You're going to change the sonic screwdriver for a
Right,
doctor.
right. You have to. Yeah.
Only one who didn't change was, since he was so new, they didn't change Christopher Eccleston to David Tennant because it's only a year. Come on.
Yeah. Now, okay, so we the goblins sing that song. There's like a musical number, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's perchance say that I am right and we are in our own bubble, that this is a whole storyline starting from maybe the 60th anniversaries and it's going to continue going. Let's say that, right? Let's go ahead. I'm not going to talk much about it because we'll talk about it later, but Maestro, why can't this be a prelude, a harbinger that that the Devil's Court is coming up?
I didn't see it that way. Not to mention, real quick, I mean, I kind of disagree because the whole thing of the Fantastic gets, I think, canceled. I mean, how fantastical it gets it, because in the last episode, Boom, I think we're getting back into a more traditional science fictional kind of story. But we'll get to that. Let's, to quote another podcaster friend of mine, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Not at all. Not at all.
I will say that there is and I'm speaking as a musician, that I found, and in different ways, and when we get to Boom, I'll explain it too. There is a musical aspect to each and every one of these episodes, sometimes in a fantastical way, sometimes in a humorous way, in different ways. And I very much enjoyed that, because to me, music's very important. And it's a part of my life. And so it just to me, it fit.
Yeah,
it fit that
Christmassy.
I very much so far have been enjoying what I'm seeing and what they're throwing at me, and I'm like, keep it going, let's see what we get next.
I mean, I'm enjoying it too, but I'm like trying to I mean, when I enjoy something, I don't want to just enjoy it. I want to try putting the pieces together. And that's where all
I think that you are taking the puzzle pieces, cutting off the ends and trying to make them all fit, and that RTD is going to go nanny boo boo.
We will see. We will see at the end of the season and or this next season.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna close up on this episode. Really want to talk about it. Who is Mrs. Flood? How does she know what a TARDIS is, and why, for the first time this season, because it happens a lot, are we breaking the fourth wall?
I got a short answer to this.
$65 million question.
Go ahead, Juan.
I want to know why, but I'm this is where I'm going, ooh.
Okay, but your supposition, who is Mrs. Flood? Are we talking maybe the Ronnie, River Song, Susan?
Okay,
I'm choosing to not make a decision.
Is it the mystery woman? Is she the mystery woman? Just give a guess. Just come up with something.
No, I'm choosing to not make a guess.
Wow.
I'm actually choosing to not make a guess. I want more information at this point. This is my thing of loving a mystery. I'm collecting my clues, but I'd love to hear what you guys think.
I think it's a fruitless endeavor trying to predict this. I mean, in modern Who, we keep trying to predict the mystery, and it's always wrong. People want, and it's insert who do you want to see back? I mean, you want to see Susan, you want to see Romana.
Well, I think Susan's coming back a different way, but yeah.
Okay, well, that would be interesting if they use Carol Ann Ford again, because they'd have to hide that. So
that's what.
But then again, they did hide the fact that Tom Baker was coming back for the 50th anniversary special.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but I just think it's a fruitless endeavor to do, and I kind of object to making predictions. I mean, the only prediction that I believe ever came out right, that when I did think some people accurately predicted online that Neil Patrick Harris was the toy maker.
All right, I'm not really trying to do predictions. I'm trying to piece this together in front of everybody. I'm trying to, and yes, I'm ripping off the edges and I'm putting them together. It's just what I do. Okay.
There was nobody on the grassy knoll, Mark.
All right. Well, there was maybe. So all I can say at the end of this is never seen a TARDIS before. Okay. Let's move on. That's the Christmas
I love
episode.
all the winking. I
love the winking, and there's so much more to come.
Yes.
Here we go. Space babies. Woohoo!
Now, the next two was interesting because my two friends One of them who I'll be seeing around in Fringe, and the other one, hopefully, we'll get to see a little Fringe if she's not booked. But I usually see Doctor Who the second time with my friends.
Okay.
And this time I had to see it the first time because they were going to be booked up for the last weekend. So it had to be last Friday, now or never, or at least not until next month. So we saw the first 2 episodes. So there were some interesting insights on that.
Okay.
Vicky, you want to go next on this one, or?
Let's have a little introduction. Let's have our 3 sentences.
Oh yes, our introduction, darling.
I want my 3 sentences, sir.
Space babies. The Doctor and Ruby find space babies on a space station. The station also has a robot nanny and a hostile monster. The monster is not all what it seems.
All right. Back to the cast. We still have everyone, the 4 cast members of the season. The Bogeyman was played by Robert Strange, who, if you watch Red Dwarf, was in season 11, episode 5, Crisis. He played the Gelth Chief. And since 2015, he's been a creature and droid operator using the name Robert Nierm for the Star Wars movies. He's been doing all the Star Wars movies since 2015. Yeah. Then you have Nan E, or Jocelyn Sincere, played by Golda, and I can't say this name, Golda Roshuville, who is in Bridgerton as Queen Charlotte. Torchwood, season 2, episode 7, Dead Man Walking as Dr. Angela Connolly, and again that season in Exit Wounds as an unnamed doctor, maybe the same one. Okay, what'd you guys think?
This one was first of all, it was hilarious.
Yes, it was. It was.
But it had the hidden little moments in there that was very timely.
Yeah.
And I really liked almost throwaway comments about how timely it was.
Yeah.
Like the government making everyone leave the ship, but having them still run the ship.
Yeah.
And that whole little timely little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And but it was still fully operational. And then you have the babies essentially running the ship but not able to age.
Right.
And and they're space babies. And the doctor keeps correcting himself and calling them the space babies.
Oh yes, you can't say it's space babies.
Space babies.
Space babies.
And the whole thing was again, as Doctor Who can be, both funny and poignant.
Yeah.
And then the twist at the end.
Ooh, because there's always a twist at the end.
Because there's always a twist at the end.
I'm stopping.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I love the bogey monster, and I love the way that he solves the problem. Because I'm just going to say this. Forgive me, but every teenage boy on the planet went, "Of course."
Of course, the bogeyman is the bogeyman. Okay.
And that's how I would solve the problem. I had a flashback to Spaceballs.
Okay. Juan, what did you think of this episode?
I think it was interesting. I think they wanted to do something light, and I think it's fairly. I mean, to be honest, it's fairly light. I mean, we have stakes.
Yeah.
Vicky, one thing I did miss was I missed the explanation that they're halted from aging. I just thought that they aged slower than a normal
No,
baby.
they're halted. They said
they were halted.
They
said
didn't
they
get
were
a
halted.
Yeah.
Now, again, we were watching this on a much smaller TV.
It was a throwaway statement.
It was a throwaway statement, but it was there. Yeah.
Okay. Sadly, I missed it because, unfortunately, the house I was in watching it, I might have been distracted by a cat. And that's,
understand that.
Okay.
Although, if they were doing it at my house, we'd be distracted by a single dog. Anyway, but no. So I missed that fact. I just thought they were space babies and they just aged slowly.
No.
But as I said, it was going for something kind of light. There were I mean,
yes.
When I say light, it's just not as heavy as we're going to get into Boom. But at the same time, there are stakes. You have these innocent little cherubs,
I love Eric
danger.
and Poppy. Eric and Poppy are my favorites.
I know.
Captain Poppy.
And I heard that they did some. When they actually had a real baby and when they didn't have a real baby.
Yeah, I was watching Unleashed. I saw
I haven't seen Unleashed. That's where they
I
got
won't tell you
from.
about it. But they talk about that a lot.
you can't spoil Unleashed.
No,
But
I guess not. Well, then he's a runner in the first episode. That's where what his position is that he tries being a runner. I didn't spoil it. You just said it wasn't a spoiler.
well, no, it's a making of show, and I know that they
know.
had production. So I know that, but obviously working with small children, I mean, even using them in a limited way as you are.
2 hours. They could only use them 2 hours a day.
2 hours, okay.
2 hours a day. That was it.
But it looked right. I mean, they look like kids. Unfortunately, I think I wasn't looking too closely at the mouth sync, and that was probably never going to work anyway.
They show you how they did it on there too. It was real fascinating,
but unfortunately, it shows RTD, and it didn't bother me when he did it the first time. But of course, he's going back to, fart humor as he did in the Sylvine episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you guys, because this is like season 1, the beginning, trying to get new people around the world, there was a lot of exposition, but it worked, where he gave all the background, who he was, what planet, all this stuff. He got it out. It didn't sound forced. And as a homage to his original soft reboot, notice there was no cold opening. It just went to the credits, kind of like Rose. It started with the credits.
Oh. Well, I think it would have been hard to have done a cold.
Well, because you could have picked up from the...
Yeah, I mean, you'd either have to establish the babies first, and that wouldn't have made any sense. And you just would have done all the exposition about the doctor in the cold open, and that's not going to be. I mean, I think the cold open should shock you in to what's going on, which I think we did in the next 2 episodes.
Right.
And again, yeah, you might be right. That was probably the reason they didn't do a cold open for this one. Just go straight into the story.
And there was another homage, would be the scene from End of the World where he opens up the viewport so that Rose can see the Earth and the sun, and we kind of got that again.
We got that feeling from that one.
The phone happened again in that. And another reason why, and I don't want to say I'm predicting, but my Land of Fiction thing is going ding, 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 ding. Okay. Sorry, I don't want to do that. I'll try not to do it.
There are things that the doctor does for his companions.
Yeah.
And there are things that definitely harken back to previous seasons and previous episodes.
Yeah.
And I think that, if you're going to try and get new viewers, especially younger viewers, I think that this would be a good episode, because you're definitely going to get the 20-something-year-olds. They're going to come in for the laughs. They're going to get a quick 20-second history of who the characters are. They're going to get these little aside, deepness in there, just enough to bring them in.
Yeah.
And so, you come in for the laughs, and then you stay for the stories.
Yeah, I agree.
And sometimes that works.
Okay, so what do we think about it was like an opening sequence, and I'm not talking about the opening sequence that was kind of replayed from the Christmas episode. I'm talking about the butterfly effect sequence. What did you guys think of that? That was hysterical. If I ever see Ruby Thin Blue of the 57th Hemisphere hatchlings again, I'm gonna die. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that they're just, if this is, I don't like calling it a reboot, but obviously they know that they're going to be new viewers to the series, so they're trying to establish what are the rules of time travel, or what you don't have to worry about. And we also get that in the Devil's Cord, where you actually replay something that they did in 1975.
We'll talk about it.
So they're just establishing the rules of time travel for Doctor Who.
No, totally. But I thought it was also played for the humor that he wanted an introductory episode to have. You want to bring people in, have a good time, and give the major beats that you need later, like we were saying.
Although, Mark, you might get this. I don't know. I don't know. Vicky will. Was it just me, or did Ruby started to look like Destry from the comic series?
Actually, you are right. Yes.
Vicky, if you don't know, Destry was a companion from the comic strip during the 8th Doctor time.
I wonder.
I did not read the comic strips.
Yeah, I wonder if they took the image from and used it. Possible, because it was very similar.
Great.
Not complete, but very similar.
Yeah, Destry was of a reptile descendant species.
Did you guys notice that Star Trek exists in this universe, and not just the show, but he was going to take her to meet them?
I don't. I think. Well, obviously,
I know it's just
tongue
in the show.
planted in
It's
cheek.
just a joke, but you can watch Star Trek.
Although, can I go
think
on a
we've done
minor
it.
tangent?
Sure.
Paul Cornell had a great idea for a comic story for IDW when they had both the rights to Trek and to Who, and the idea was that he was going to have the second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe, meet the classic era, because if you really look at it, the classic era had a very, had the central character with a highly intellectual character and a more emotional character, and the second Doctor in the 6th season was surrounded by an intellectual character and an emotional character. So he thought that this was going to be great synergy, and that would have been the perfect era of Doctor Who to cross over, rather than to go with the easy Tom Baker choice that they did eventually.
I want to push ahead, as the Doctor likes to now do, push buttons. He kept doing it. Okay, so fear. Now, fear has been popping up several times, so far, almost every time in this new season. The Doctor is experiencing the shivers. And there's a reason for it, and you find out later, but it's interesting that you finally seem to have a Doctor who can be afraid of things. And yes, he has a few times before, but this seemed very important, that he was afraid of and you can't call he can't really call it a monster, because it's just an alien. Aliens aren't monsters, but why? And what did you think about the explanation with the sonic frequency?
I actually needed that explanation. Let me jump ahead.
Okay.
Mainly because we don't want. It's okay for the Doctor to be afraid, but I think you have to really up the stakes.
Yes.
I mean, one of the more visual times, the first time I think that I can remember, and it could have happened before, was the Doctor was afraid of the Time Lords in War Games.
That's true. Yeah, he was.
And in Planet of Spiders, he had a great fear of the
spiders.
Great One.
Yeah.
And I think, I think Stephen Moffat said, when the Doctor is concerned or gets emotional about something, that's something to care about. When the Doctor is being, Tom Baker's mockery self, or his humorous smartass self, you're okay. So you want to make it something, when the Doctor's afraid, it's got to be, the stakes have got to be higher. You got to rack up the stakes. So explaining that the Doctor is afraid because of the frequency that is being, I guess, emitted by the monster or the creature, that's a good explanation. Although and I know we're going to jump ahead, I do like the fact that he's more genuinely afraid in the next one,
and he really is, and we will get to that. Baby farm. What do you guys think of the concept?
Well, it's a little bit
interesting. Sorry, you go first, one.
Oh no, I maybe a bit on the nose, but sometimes I think we need to be on the nose. And Vicky, you didn't get to reply on your opinion of the Doctor's fear.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I agree, though. It just the Doctor occasionally needs to be afraid, and the Doctor has things that he's afraid of. Not very often. Been around the block a few thousand times.
Damn straight.
But I agree that it just, there are things he is also afraid of.
Yeah.
And there are things that, shall we say, in his past and in the recesses of his mind that trigger for him. Yeah. There has to be. He survived a time war. He survived genocide. He's a Time Lord. I mean, there's got to be a whole slew of things that he's afraid of. Whether or not he's ever shown us. And I think that is going to be one of the themes we are seeing throughout this entire season. It's going to be an important theme.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that the whole baby farm, which is, I agree, it's a bit on the nose. It is something that is a sci-fi construct that has been done perhaps a lot. Perhaps some people might say too much, but I don't think so, because I think it's important both in this day and age, and then if we're looking at the world and we're looking at the future, what does the future hold? that is a possibility. So let's leave it in there and let's not suddenly stop looking at things just because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it maybe have been done a few thousand times. Let's keep looking at it.
Yeah. Juan?
Although, quick question on the baby farm, was it explained that were the people who were running it dealing with underpopulation or
Yes, the
depopulation?
planet was, I think the planet was sterile, I think is the quote. Let me find the quote here.
Well, don't kill yourself. I mean,
no.
I'll accept. I'll
They're
take
cloning
I
for
think
human
it
colony
was.
worlds that are sterile. So the planet was sterile. Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
I have that in my notes. 37 pages of notes, folks.
Which also could be an issue. I mean, I don't think it's the biggest issue in Britain or the United States, but it's definitely an issue of concern in Japan.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe even no, I know it's definitely in Japan. I don't know if in the rest.
But then
of
they
Asia,
run out of money and they just
Right.
abandon it. And you just
Yeah.
But then they refuse to shut it down because, well, but we can't do that. I mean, none of it makes any sense. Typical bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Nothing about any of it makes any sense.
I'm a little bit hostile about blaming bureaucracy in a big pen because I am a bureaucrat
I am too.
Yeah,
but at the same
are.
time, I just believe it's bad political leadership because I think a bureaucrat can solve any problem if they are given the right.
It's
tools.
the overall, yes. And as a matter of fact, when they're saying that they're resigning under protest, the individual people, the individual bureaucrats, it's someone at the top is making a piss poor decision or possibly not even making a decision, just kind of kicking the can down the road and hoping someone else will figure it out later is kind of what it felt like to me. And sometimes that's what we do is, well, we'll kick the can down the road and let someone else figure it out later.
Well, and also the thing is, you don't explain sometimes. I mean, I've been reading a lot of New York Times columnists, and I think the thing is we don't also see the political context because if you don't have anybody backing you up, if there's not a public outcry, then people can wink, wink, get away with stuff, or at least, as you say, and I like using the football term, punt it down the line, until somebody doesn't, until somebody does care about it, or at least
I can
as
see
long as
that.
it's not a political liability that you're going to lose office over it.
Nope, I can see that.
What did you think of the change in tone of when the doctor and Ruby come and meet the babies and they're mommy, daddy, and everything, and then you find out that they're not only, the baby's finding out they're not, but other things happening, like they're abandoned. That's for no good reason. We got
abandonment
really.
again.
Government,
abandonment
really.
is again a theme.
Yeah. Babies abandonment. It looks like this is going to run through the entire season. The connections, the plot, I do believe.
I'm not seeing it in the next one, but I definitely do see it in the last one. So again, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
All right. There was a scene I really enjoyed. I thought it was very funny. When the doctor is trying to make a sense of the situation, he's mentioning, we have the space babies, Nanny, and we'll talk about Nanny in a minute, and their pet dog downstairs. Now, at that point, the baby starts screaming and crying the second he says that. Now, Eric the Brave, in my opinion, Eric says that it's obviously not a doggo, but the bogeyman. And of course, when he says that, crying, and then Ruby's saying, there's no such thing as the bogeyman, and that is this, and then the doctor interrupts, the bogeyman, and they're crying. This was a hysterical sequence, I thought. What you guys think?
It was. And I feel like the doctor was trying to be funny, and it had the reverse effect on the kid.
And then he kept going with it because he couldn't stop. He was finding it so funny himself. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this was played for laughs, but again, humor is a part of Doctor Who. Humor is good to have. It's a good way to bring people into a serious storyline to have humor in it. So I think it did work. Talk about Nanny.
It was good that the fact that they did, have a adult responsible, that they, that there was an adult responsible.
He wasn't actually a robot.
Right.
We thought it was an AI.
And she's doing her best. I mean, I think we're talking about, bureaucrats who are doing their job, and she's doing her best, and she helps out in solving the problem. She's trying to solve the problem
Yes.
the best she can with what she has. And isn't she the one who finds the refugee planet, or at least looks up the record? I forget. I haven't seen it. I've only seen this one in 2 weeks. So
the doctor comments, says that they're in because the ship can't move, but they wish they could because it's in such a great location, a great solar system. And then yes, I think it is Nanny who points out the specific planet is, and let me get the word, a Dublessi, and I can't remember how to pronounce that. But it's a type of world that takes refugees, but they don't get refugees and bring them in, because the definition of refugees are people who come into, not people who are gathered and come into. So yeah, what was I going to say? God, everything's connecting with the babies and everything.
Well, Nanny is great because, and I love the way that here she is. She's an accountant. She's trying to keep the ship going. She's trying to keep the kids going. She's afraid to tell the kids that she's not an AI. Because she's afraid to get close to them because she
doesn't want to have them.
So
they don't want him to
have the fear coming through. It's a different character, but we have the fear going through the storyline that if she gets too close, she's not going to be able to
watch them die. And that was the answer.
She doesn't know. And then what happens when she goes? And so she's thinking about all this. She's basically
for 6 years
holding the world on her shoulders and trying to figure out how is she going to deal with this. And not realizing, and basically getting herself stuck in that infinite loop of hell. And it takes the doctor, and again, it's where you have to have someone from the outside coming in, helping you see that, it's not as dire as you think, or there is another step in that process, that there is another way. And then he brings Nanny and the kids together, and then comes up with the solution to get them to the refugee planet. And it just, it's one of the things that I love about Doctor Who is when we have a problem and we're stuck so often in an infinite loop. Whether it's a human and another species, it's even the doctor himself. It requires someone else to think, to use that horrible phrase, outside the box. To go, well, what about this? And, the number of times that a character, whether it's the doctor or companion or somebody around them, going, well, what about this? And it's like, oh my gosh, let's do this. Let's try something different. And that's very inspirational, sometimes in a funny way, sometimes in a poignant way, sometimes in a way. And it's one of the things I love about Doctor Who. It makes you feel like you can get past anything.
Well, we're going back to the RTD idea that the doctor makes people better, and that's definitely going to play out in the next story, and to a certain extent in the third story. The story after that.
Let me do a quick bit of housekeeping. Yes, it definitely was Jocelyn who mentioned that the planet called Mondo Karoon is a Dewberry Duplessis world. Dewberry Duplessis. So yeah, it is that. The fact that that every story has a hero, and what do we see in the scanner? My brave Sir Eric, going to vanquish the bogeyman, or the doggo, whichever you want to call it. I kind of want to sing brave Sir Robin from Holy Grail, but change the name to Eric. It's in my head right now. I can't. It's an earworm right now.
No.
Oh God. But
it makes sense. He looks like a monster. You think he's a monster. Another theme in Doctor Who. just because something looks like a monster doesn't mean it's a monster.
Yeah.
And something that doesn't look like a monster sometimes is a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, the Master has often, looked like a perfectly fine, perfectly wonderful thing and
Perfectly.
proven itself
Yeah.
oftentimes to not be. But everyone thinks that the bogeyman is a monster. So what are we going to do? We're going to put him in an airlock. Let's shit him out the door because he's a monster. We don't want the monster.
But we, the Doctor and Ruby have discovered not a monster because they had been talking about the education machine that the software that messed up, and that so it kind of, when the babies were born, it also created another type so that there was a villain in it. And so if you think about it, and the Doctor obviously has, the bogeyman is actually one of the children. And I want to get into the fact that the bogeyman are made of bogeys, boogers, whatever.
Classic. It was funny.
Well, no, but hold on. So
what was the found footage episode where it was essentially eye boogers? Moffat era. I think.
I know. Oh God, it's the one where the sleeping, the Capaldi with the dreams, and I can't think of the title.
I know which one.
My brother actually texted me about. Really. And I thought I accepted it. I mean, it takes me a lot to hate a Doctor Who MacGuffin.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting. Okay, so the fact that they blew their nose.
It was too funny to go, okay, it's bad. I mean, it was funny. Come on.
But the fact that they were blowing their nose, and that's how the bogeyman was created, those nappies had to do something in the story, didn't they? The diapers, the bull, whatever, the shizzle, as the Doctor will put it, thanks to
I'm sorry, filter. As somebody who has a son, I mean, he's 30 now, but the amount of snot and dirty diapers that came out of that one child. And then I had my nephew live with us for many years, and I'm telling you, the amount that they produce, yes, just one of them could have produced that monster. So you have a whole ship of them. Oh dear Lord in heaven, let me tell you, yes, that could have produced that monster.
Okay.
And enough methane to move that ship. Yes, yes, it could have happened.
Now, I didn't mention this before, but in the middle of the episode, there was an idea came up that was kind of vocalized by Ruby, but not directly, that she came on board. She expected, because there's a time machine, to be able to go back to her birth and find out who her mother and father is. And, that's kind of flat. That's kind of there. It's laying there. It isn't gone.
Yeah.
But at the end of the episode, because, everything's yay, we're running out. He gives her a key, but tells her the one thing you can't do is that. And she doesn't look that happy or not. I don't know. Of
course, you know what I think about when he's telling her that. I think about when Rose wants to go back and save her dad.
Yes.
It's the first thing that came to my mind, and the absolute havoc it wrecked to the planet and the universe and everything. It was horrific. And it just, it's like, we don't want that to happen again.
Another homage to an earlier story. Yeah, we get a lot of those this season, folks. But he does take her back to her house. And actually, hold on, because this is a timing thing that we need to know for the next episode. The phone, when she calls her mother on the phone, that the relative time for Ruby is December of 2023, because there's only 10 seconds or 10 minutes, depending on who said it, after she left on Christmas Day. Does come up next episode. But they take her back. She goes back right after, so the relative time still is about the same time. The scanner in the TARDIS, what's it scanning? Something is up with Ruby.
I obviously, as I think I said before, I think we've all said before, Ruby's going to be the big. I'm surprised he's going there, because I know there were a lot of people who were tired over the Clara thing, even though it didn't bother
the Impossible
me.
Girl. I think we had another one.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't really been bothered seriously by Doctor Who since Fear Her. So it takes a lot for me to get angry, and I'm definitely not going to go angry and rant about it on the social webs.
Yeah.
I might have to do it on the show because Mark has a gun pointed at my dog, but
I do
we'll
actually,
get at
folks.
it. Yeah.
It's basically, this is National Lampoon from the 70s, and I've got it. Yeah. The cover
Anyway, so that she's going to be the MacGuffin. I mean, and we get more of that in the next two. I forget if we see anything in the Devil's Court. We definitely do get something in Boom.
Yeah.
So, I agree. There's something about her that is special. And I think that, I mean, first of all, let's just admit that everyone who becomes a companion to the Doctor,
right,
there's already something special about them.
Yeah, totally.
And
Doctor wouldn't take them on board.
Now there have been, I'm going to call them companions to the companion. We've had some of those. I call them the side companions. They're not the primary companions.
Okay.
And we've had a couple of those. Mickey was one of those.
Don't you dare say Rory was, because Rory was a companion through and through.
Rory was an actual companion.
Good. You're not getting
kind of started off a little fuzzy, but he very quickly moved straight into straight companion spot.
Yes.
Yeah, at the beginning it was a little unclear, but it was very clear he was a full companion very quickly.
Okay.
But there was a couple of them that were just nope, they were never going to be real companions.
Okay.
But there was something special about people like Rose and Martha. You knew that there was something special. Sarah Jane, there was something very special about these people to begin with. Whether or not the Doctor realized it in the beginning or when it was too late, who knows? And I think with all of them, if they didn't have that quality, they would have never made good companions to begin with.
I agree.
And I think some of them have to be extra special. And sometimes he needs to have something. He needs to have a companion who is even more, shall we say.
Yeah.
And that's where we have our Claras. Clara had to be something beyond a typical. Now, of course, did it get a little confusing there for some people? Yes. I heard a lot of people complain. I didn't have a problem with it.
I'm not a Clara fan. Just like I'm not an Adric fan, I'm not a Clara fan.
I didn't have a problem with
it. That's just me. Guys, we have to take a break. I'm glad we were able to talk.
Fine.
No, we've talked about Church on Ruby Road. We've talked about Space Babies. We're going to talk about Devil's Court and Boom after this break. And all I can say is, like I thought the second that episode Space Babies ended, to be continued. We'll be right back here on MarkWHO42's Universe.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more MarkWHO42 after this.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure the Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news, play movie games,
go in-depth on reviews,
and even have a top 10 countdown or two.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies film by film. Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience the Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or geekcastradio.com.
You are listening to MarkWHO42's Universe.
Welcome back to more of MarkWHO42's Whoniverse. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whoniverse. It's all Doctor Who.
Just don't get us sued.
I had the title back in 2012, but yes, they had Whoniverse before that too. I'm Mark Baumgarten. With me is Vicky Jakubowski and Juan Sanmiguel. Well, we've started talking about Ncuti's Gatwa's series. We're now on the second, our third that we're covering, but the second episode of season 1, unless you're on Disney Plus, and then it says that Church on Ruby Road is episode 1, and this is episode 3. Confusing, timey-wimey. It's The Devil's Court by, of course, Russell T Davies. Juan, give us our 3 sentences.
The Doctor and Ruby want to see the Beatle. The mysterious maestro steals all the music in the 1920s. Can the Doctor and Ruby get the music back in 1963?
Can they get down? Okay, Same, let me give the cast. We have Maestro, played by Jinx Monsoon, who also is called the Jinx. She's the winner, she's the winner of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 5 and the Queen of All Queens on Drag Race. And she's also performed on Broadway as Mama Morton in Chicago. We have Henry Harbinger, which when I was watching with my club, I didn't hear the name. Kind of like you missed stuff, I missed Harbinger there. Played by Kit Rockerson, who has actually been on Foundation as Josiah and is going to appear in Enid Blyton's series The Famous Five as Dick Bernard. George Martin is played by Ed White. He was in Krypton Season 2, Episode 4. Paul McCartney, played by George Capel. John Lennon, played by Chris Mason, who was in Riverdale Season 5 as Chad Gecko. George Harrison, played by Philip Davis. Ringo Starr by James Hoyles. Cilla Black by Josie Sedgwick Davis. Laura June Hudson plays the old lady. June Hudson, everyone's favorite costume designer from the classic Doctor Who series, who you can see in every Blu-ray edition during Behind the Sofa. She talks a lot there. Love her. And Murray Gold actually plays himself. He's the Doctor Who composer from 2005 to 2016 and from 2023 on. Whew. We have a big cast. So I was mentioning the fact that time was important in this, because there's a lot of things that Ruby is certain of in this story, and it doesn't make sense if this happened right after Space Babies. There is a time reference later on, and we'll get to that reference, but this takes about 6 months later. So they've been traveling relative for Ruby's life of 6 months so far. Okay, so let's talk about the story beginning 1929. Now, Timothy Drake is the music teacher, and I've been looking for a real life person who that's based on, and I can't find an exact one. Have either of you gone delving into that?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I tried to see if there was any truth to that. The Devil's Cord is a real thing, but the Timothy Drake person, I haven't found anything remotely like that. Yeah. And I didn't find that the Devil's Cord was like lost and found and anything like that.
I heard he hung around Bruce Wayne in the 90s.
It's there you go. It's kind of like in The Giggle, where there was the puppet that was real, but not exactly. Right. I mean, he's playing with history.
Yes.
Yeah. But so Harry Binger is getting a piano lesson from Mr. Drake, and he demonstrates the Devil's Cord to him because he thinks that Harry is getting bored. Maestro climbs out of the piano.
Beautifully.
Love that. You find out that Harry is Maestro's son, and that Maestro says that his son is just a prelude and his song has sung. So he banishes him, and all that's left is his clothes on the floor. Not totally neatly piled, but kind of neatly piled there. He calls Mr. Drake a genius. That's important for later, folks.
Yes.
But what I love most about this cold opening is how we get to the theme music.
Oh my God, beautiful.
Yeah. Starts playing on the piano, merging into the theme.
Yes.
And when the theme's over, it merges into the jukebox.
Yes.
All about the music in this episode. All about the music.
I loved that. There's so many things I love about this episode. And that, like I said, being musically inclined, it's just that flow was just, and that is so important in this episode. It just to have that flow, it's indicative of what this is. It just becomes very important.
So they change into costumes this time. Doctor
the
puts
only
on a wig.
problem is Ruby's hair was just way too small.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. Her beehive. And she kept saying she wanted a high beehive. Baby, that was a baby hive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My mother's beehive her senior year was about 10 times that high. So,
but I did like the doctor's hair. Doctor's hair
was beautiful.
Okay, I'm watching this episode again in our main room, and my partner's father, who's living with us, he's in a room, and he's like, I thought this was supposed to be the new doctor. Who is this guy? I'm like, same guy, different hairstyle. I go, oh. and the look was just really good.
Yeah,
he fit the mod character he was trying to portray. I thought.
I definitely transported to the 60s in general.
Yeah. Well, except for one thing. Music was bad. Really bad.
Well, and the thing is, I think we should note that this is 1963, so this is before the 60s became the 60s, which is more 66, 67.
Yes.
You know, our image. We're still in the Kennedy era for Americans. I don't know.
Yeah, we are, because
Prime Minister.
Because this actually takes place before An Earthly Child, which gets
Mm-hmm.
brought up. But I mean, you know, I really want to get a whole recording of I Got a Dog. I want to hear the whole song. I got a dog. Oh.
Well,
and
my mother raised me.
And then Cilla Black sings, "We are three, not two."
I know.
And then the orchestra.
I was raised, my parents are both from Detroit. So I was raised with Motown, 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way through. I know the song. I know the lyrics to all the Letterman songs. It's wild. Some of the music I know.
Yeah.
And it was just very wild because everything looked right, felt right. Not a thing sounded right. And it just, you think about some of the early Ed Sullivan days, and it was just like you felt like it was your kid brother pretending to be these people.
Yeah.
And he threw a band together in the garage, and that they were all kind of, clunking around on somebody's drum set very, very, very badly with no rhythm. And it was just like, oh my God, I've heard that band. It was really bad. But it was perfect.
Now, do you follow the plot part that because the music is dull, that world is dull, music is gone, history has changed? Do you get the concept that history has taken a completely different path since 1929?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
But at the same time, I believe that when Maestro is dealt with, that everything is, our timeline will go back
right.
to normal.
I consider the reset to 1929. I know a lot of people are going, what happened before 1963? No, I think it's the whole timeline.
I'm wondering, but you brought up the thing about Celia and all the music going on in Abbey Road at the time, and it just kind of reminded me
back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it reminded me of something. It was a documentary about how I think around the time, you had the big rock in the mid 50s of Chuck Berry, Elvis, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, and then Elvis got drafted, and kind of like music kind of drifted back into a more poppier sound, and then the Beatles brought it back. And I think I don't know if that's what they're implying about the dullness of music, or that was his wink of doing that.
It's an interesting thing because you almost kind of get like, well, why would it even be there? Why would the Beatles even be there? I decided to just accept a certain amount of disbelief, kind of what you do when you go to movies and TV. Sometimes you accept a certain level of okay, I'm missing some facts. That's okay to get me from A to B. And but I absolutely agree that music is such a huge part of people. And when you think about in the 1920s and then the advent of radio and the impact that music had on people and popular music and what it had on people, and then all the way through World War II, it just huge impact and a change. And music is something, and I actually used to work for a company that did music as therapy.
Okay.
So the idea of us not having music and the eventual insanity that would happen to the universe, absolutely no surprise.
Okay. The Beatles, I think, were very essential to the plot because McCartney and Lenny are two musical geniuses, hint, hint, wink, wink, say no more.
So we needed to have them.
Yeah. Now, they believe that they have no talent, and to them, that's good. The Doctor and Ruby try to give him a pep talk about how music is magical and important. Lennon tells Ruby that he wakes up crying because even though he's getting what he wants, he's crying because he isn't getting what he wants, even though he has the normal life that he says he wants. And McCartney tells the doctor how sometimes he wakes up and, thinks of a note, and then another note, and then another note.
Yeah.
And it feels like the most holy thing on earth, putting music and words from the heart. And he actually starts singing, I'm not going to sing it, I love you so much.
Yes.
And time kind of stops, and the doctor drops his spoon that he was stirring his tea with. And it hits the ground, and in the reflection on the spoon is Maestro.
Everything. Every reflective surface.
Right, but okay, that's true. And time restarts slowly, and Lennon at that point says that they're disgusting and they're wasting their time.
Yeah.
That was a very important scene, I think.
Yeah.
And, the doctor, he's got to do something. He has to bring the world back. He needs music. Ruby needs music. The world needs music.
Yes.
So he gets a piano on the roof to bring back music because there are no more love songs. No love songs? How does that happen?
Actually, wait, a quick question. Is that where the Get Back concert took place, on the top of Abbey Road, or was that another building?
It was another building.
Okay. Thank you for clarification.
That's all right. But on the roof, and this is where we get into the before Unearthly Child, the doctor's telling Ruby that he lives over there and points at Shoreditch. And he tells her that he was in a junkyard on Totter's Lane with his granddaughter, Susan. And Ruby's like, you have children? What? And Ruby says what happens to her. And he says he doesn't know that the Time Lords were murdered. Genocide rolled across time and space like a great big cellular explosion. Maybe it killed her too. This genocide, are we talking Flux? Are we talking what the doctor did to Gallifrey and Scarrow? Or is this
the
Master
thing? No, the thing is, okay, the current... The one issue I had with Chimble was, why did you have to destroy Gallifrey again after bringing it back? That was kind of goofy.
Right.
But here's the thing. So now they're implying, at least for right now, that when the Master destroyed the Time Lord, he destroyed them everywhere.
So it's
so
complete
there
genocide.
may not be any survivors.
Well, then what about the Time War? The Daleks never had to fight the Time War, and so...
Well, no, the thing is, Time Lords
you're saying
ended...
you're saying the Time Lords are gone. You said from all points there were never Time Lords. I thought you just said.
No, I said. No, I'm saying that the Time Lords. Well, I said the Time Lords are gone, but the thing is, and that was actually a thing that they tried to address in the New Adventures. That Gallifrey is like at 0.0 in relationship to everywhere else, and they were trying to explain something. And I'm just saying that when the Master did his thing. The Time Lords are all gone. Now, I'm not saying that the Time Lords were erased from all history, but they just no longer exist.
Okay.
And what a clumsily described now is for the Doctor. And again, I always did wonder. Actually, I don't know if Chimble was interviewed in depth about this in Gallifrey 1. I know that Radio Free Skaro got to interview him, but they didn't get to a lot of the questions because they only had him for a limited amount of time. They weren't talking about production questions until the end, and they didn't have a chance to talk about story ideas or why did he decide to go into a different direction that he did.
Back to the roof. I think that scene in the Church on Ruby Road where she's playing keyboard kind of connected to this one too, because she has to play the piano, and the music is coming back. And people are opening up their windows because they're hearing this magical sound that they haven't heard from Laura June Hudson. I call her June. Laura June Hudson remembers from before 1929 this beautiful music she's hearing, and they're all listening to it. And then who comes out of the piano again? Crawling out of the piano?
Maestro.
Maestro.
Maestro is. Now we were talking about, I don't know if you want to get into that. I want to take the first lick about
go for it.
The Doctor being afraid, and I think this is a legitimate fear.
Well, the fact that he heard the giggle, he heard Master doing the giggle.
Well, I don't think it was the giggle. It's just that the Doctor recognizes it.
He recognized the giggle, and that's what started his fear, that he started rolling into knowing who he's fighting against, and that's real fear. That's 100% real.
You see, that was the thing that was confusing. And again, this one I watched with my friend on a smaller set, and we do read the subtitles because one of us is a little bit harder of hearing.
Okay.
So the thing is, what he meant by the giggle was that he was talking about the events in the giggle.
No.
Has led to the return of creatures like the toy maker. That there's more than one toy maker. In fact,
no, their giggles were alike. It was the same giggle that the toy maker made.
But apparently, the toy maker is not the only one of his species or of his kind who has these powers, and they're now all coming back.
Yeah,
and the Doctor has to deal with them.
Yeah, connections, folks.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this all doesn't just connect to Ruby Road. This connects to the 60th. There's a whole bunch of things going on at once. RTD is juggling like crazy. I think he's doing a good job. So the Doctor tries to block because the tuning fork. And what do you use? Yes. This is the first time I think the sonic screwdriver, other than a screwdriver, is being used for what it should be. It's sonic. It should be able to block sonic sound.
That was wild.
Yeah, it was. Oh, and you have Maestro, not understanding why there's no noise, screaming, and no sound. And yes, well, and you only get to fool a god once until they figure out what you're doing, and that was his once. Because Ruby's like, "Oh, you can defeat him." No, you can defeat them. No, you can't. He's saying.
That was an interesting situation, and I love that all those little bits where one, you've got the Doctor's afraid, you have the Doctor with his sneaky way of using the sonic screwdriver, you've got the Maestro going, "What the hell happened?" And then you got the Maestro going, "Oh really? Well, look at what I can do," and puts it in the water, which amplifies the waves.
Yeah.
And breaks the sonic screwdriver, and it's like, "Whoa!" I'm just like, wow, that is so nice.
And when it's broken, when the sound comes back, Maestro goes, "Sound and vision," and then smirks at the camera. We've broken the fourth wall the first time this episode. This is a common theme running, breaking the fourth wall. That's why maybe it's a story. but I'm not supposed to guess anything, not making any suppositions. We took that back. I'm trying to put the puzzles together with those little things on them. June Hudson got to play more, got to be in more scenes. She played the piano thinking back to 1928.
Yes.
And that gets her killed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's her killed. The Doctor definitely knows that the Maestro must be one of the pantheons. The old gods from the universe before, with like the great intelligence, the Guardians, the toy maker. He says that the toy maker took everything. It ripped him in half, literally. It tore his soul in half. He can't survive that again. And the toy maker did say in the giggle that his legions were coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was warned, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he had to come up with something less, shall we say, drastic. And I do like the way where it occurred to him to fight her with music.
Yeah.
To use the very thing that Maestro was made of.
Yeah.
But, a few fits and starts. And what's interesting is they have that discussion about, do you think that you're a genius? And he's almost genius enough.
He's almost, but you need true geniuses. Go back and listen to what I said about 10 minutes ago. But before we get to how how this whole thing is defeated, we must talk again about another homage. A beat by beat replay of the exact same thing that happened in Pyramid of Mars. Ruby, but I'm from the future and nothing was bad, so it must all turn out.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, no. And then he takes her to her present, just like the Tom Baker's Doctor took Sarah Jane to the 1980s. He took Ruby to 1924, and we're talking utter destruction, post-apocalyptic. Everything is destroyed. Everything is destroyed. And that's why the Doctor has to save the day. But this time, of course, he can't, because he says he can't. And Maestro appears out of nowhere in that landscape. And the landscape of the future turns into like a black screen, like a set with a black background. It's all black, and
Right.
and Maestro the doctor introduces himself to Maestro, and Maestro goes, oh, you must have time traveled here from there. You're the same people, and they realize that the doctor is the Lord Temporal, who trapped their father and bound him in salt. Toymaker much? I don't know. Maestro just wants the music without the need of people, Aeolian tones, which the doctor had actually mentioned earlier in it. And any song unsung feeds Maestro, and the end game is to steal the music of the spheres. With all life extinguished, I'm going solo. And because, it's just the doctor says, you can't just surprise me. You have to give me the rules like your father did. And so, yes, a genius has to be the one who undoes the chord, comes up with a new chord, a new sound for them to be banished. And he goes, I said genius, and you might be bright and hot and timey-wimey, but genius? Oh, honey, I don't think so. So we needed musical genius or two. Go back 15 minutes now. Did you notice the 4 knocks?
No.
When Maestro starts taking care of what he's going to do to the doctor, the 4 knocks, the cloister bell, everything starts going off because Maestro is making them happen. Anything that has a sound can be controlled by Maestro. So they race back to the TARDIS because Maestro's about to take control of the TARDIS. And then the TARDIS controls start blowing up. And the doctor does the one smart thing. He uses, and he doesn't say it, but I'm assuming it was the fast return switch, because he ends up back in 1963 where he left.
Oh.
You didn't catch all that?
No.
Wow, I'm sorry. But no, definitely the Maestro was going to start taking control of the TARDIS, and the foreshadow.
Well, yeah, I was definitely aware that she was starting to take control of it, and the doctor had to grab it back from her. I heard the cloister bell. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want to make sure I wasn't mentioning it.
No. It just, and it was important that she was really close to, it just,
Okay.
She was close.
Yeah.
But, close only is good in horseshoes.
There you go. And can you be close in Tiddlywinks? I'm not sure. Maybe
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember how to play Tiddlywinks anymore.
Okay. So go into the denouement. Talk about the denouement, one of you. How the situation is resolved. That the doctor is trying to be a genius. And
the doctor doesn't resolve the problem.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, but he tries to.
But he enables Paul and John to figure it out.
We're completely skipping over what I wanted to, but yes, you're right. Paul and John, the 2 musical geniuses, are the geniuses who do that. But what I wanted to get across was the fact that when they were trying to do it, and Maestro was like capturing both the doctor and Ruby, that Ruby, the musical notes that the Maestro uses to kill people, turn into like a angel wings around Ruby. And a hidden song in Ruby's soul comes out of her, the Shepherd's Bell Carol, and it starts snowing.
Yes. So okay.
Yeah.
That's before all that.
Yeah.
So that's when when Maestro first brings Ruby back into the room.
Yeah.
And realizes Ruby is something more than Ruby is.
Yeah, and Maestro doesn't understand how a song like that could have that much power.
Right.
Power like the oldest one. I think we're gonna wait on that. But it's interesting, Christmas saves the day, kind of, sort of, because it gives enough respite for John and Paul.
Well, it's the continuing themes that we have where, again, we know there's something special with Ruby. We know there's something different with Ruby. And Maestro has again backed this up. Things that shouldn't happen are happening.
Yeah.
It's continuing to happen. The doctor is continuously surprised. And again, it does give the doctor a moment to be able to think differently and allows the doctor a moment to figure out in his head how to use his abilities and his years of flitting through the universe to defeat the maestro. Now, he doesn't have enough on his own to completely do it, but it's enough to send the maestro, you know, kind of off kilter and just, you know, and so Ruby basically, I mean, it's this weird dichotomy. First, Ruby's captured, but then Ruby does something special and amazing.
Right.
And then Ruby's no longer captured because Maestro wasn't prepared for that. The doctor then is figuring out the secret. Maestro's not prepared for that. Maestro is continuously being caught off guard because Maestro thinks they know everything. Maestro doesn't know everything.
No.
This is also a running theme. The doctor, who has occasionally thought they know everything, the doctor has not always known everything.
Yeah.
And yes.
No, I was gonna replay something in my head. You guys, the fact you didn't hear the 4 knocks, it was Maestro playing the piano, on the piano. That was the 4 knocks, the 4 beats on the piano. Yeah, I explained it wrong. But yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I have a question for you, and this is I have no idea if this is true. I have no idea if this is what was meant to be, but that note that Paul and George played that finished the chord, was that the last note from A Day in the Life? Could that have been that's what the noise, maybe that's where that had something to do with it.
It's the ending chord from Sgt. Pepper.
It was the ending chord from Sgt. Pepper. I knew it was from something.
Yeah.
Okay, it was something.
Now, mind you, Sgt. Pepper, of course, is years and years later.
Oh, totally, totally, yeah.
Oh, but wait a minute. The Day in the Life is the last note of Sgt. Pepper.
Oh, that is.
Oh, well,
then
right. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay.
Yes.
And I think I did hear from that from other sources.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure if it was conjecture or not. I just know that they were. I remember that being bandied about, and I wasn't really focused on it. So
right.
Write your angry letters to me.
I had heard some complaints. Oh, why wasn't it, you know, from the first album or something like that? And it's like, I think it had to be something unique and different and something that didn't fit. Because
something they didn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no,
like that.
see, now that was the thing. I remember everyone saying, "Oh, well, they don't have the rights, so they're going to have to come." I think that was all fake. I don't think he was ever trying to get Beatle music. I think this was his original plot.
Yeah.
He was doing it this way. We have to speed up on this one because we're running out of time. We have to get to Boom. The last words that Maestro says before banished: "The one who waits is almost here."
Yeah.
That sounds
it's
very ominous.
It's a harbinger. Which we see in the twist.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but there's one thing I should warn you about, Ruby, and this is very serious. With all my adventures throughout time and space, I have to tell you, there's always a twist at the end. Break the fourth wall, wink, and then the fully staged musical number, breaking the fourth wall.
Which I loved. But
I loved it too.
I grew up with Dick Clark and the American Bandstand. So, you know, I knew how to do the Freddie and the twist and everything else as a kid. So, you know.
Could that musical number have been some of Maestro's residual energy causing that to happen? Maybe.
Who knows? Who cares?
Or was it just a fun? Well, yeah, I don't care, but I'm just peace. But
you are trying to find something in every last frame.
That's my job.
Every last thing.
I'm MarkWHO42. That's my job.
But why don't you just enjoy some of it?
I did enjoy it. Okay. Can I just say I love the fact that there was a blink and you'll miss it moment. There was a twist at the end of the twist where Harbinger shows up. And then
I already said that.
Did you say that?
I said that like a whole minute.
Right, but here's the funny thing. I said it because they could have blinked and missed your explanation when you said it. I know. Okay, so
I love you anyway, darling.
The only thing I had a problem was because the musical number totally made it for me when they were walking back to the TARDIS and they danced on Abbey Road. That kind of was like one step too much for me. I don't know why. It just was. It didn't ruin the story. It was just like, oh God, really? Moving on, because we have to. We're running close.
If we're going to move
of...
on, there is one thing I did really like about it.
Go ahead.
I did like that we did have George Martin portrayed in this, because my brother really liked George Martin as the Beatles engineer, and I think he was important to their success.
Yes.
So it was nice that we got a nod to him.
Okay.
They didn't give a nod to George, though, apparently, but to George Harrison. But I'm glad they did for George Martin.
They didn't even. I don't even think they ever said Ringo's name.
Yeah,
I thought they didn't say George's name, because
I don't think. Yeah, you could be right.
Actually, you know what? I don't think they said George or Ringo's name. Actually.
No. All right. So I'm now going to do a loud explosion. Boom. Stephen Moffat presents. Boom. Do we have a 3-sentence? Juan?
I've got something.
Okay.
Now, I originally wrote this before we knew what it was, but I was basing this on the trailer. I'm going to try to elaborate, so I'm going to be doing this on the fly, as it were.
Okay.
Stephen Moffat takes a problem which Terry Nation solved in 5 minutes in 1975.
Yes.
And makes an episode out of it. I sincerely know will be interesting. We have Anglican Marines, and we have capitalism.
Gone haywire.
Capitalism supporting war.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Okay. So our guest cast: Joe Anderson played John Francis Vader. He was in Outsiders. He played Asa Farrell, the TV show, and he was Lucifer in the movie The Devil's Conspiracy. Canterbury James Oliphant, or Kanto, was played by Bhav Joshi, who was actually a Nintendo programmer in that movie Tetris, which I love that movie. That was a great movie. We have Splice Allison Vader, played by, and let me see if I can pronounce this right, Carolyn Springle, who played Hendrix Conroy in the TV show Citadel, which my significant other loves that show. We have, and this is a surprise, we'll talk about at the end, Susan Twist as Ambulance again. We'll talk about Susan Twist at the end of the show. But what's most surprising is we have a character named Mundy Flynn, played by Virata Sethu. I bring that up because, there was that rumor that Ruby was going to be replaced by an actress named Virata Sethu. And then it was announced, yes, Virata Sethu is going to be in it. And then we have her playing Mundu Flynn, which may or may not be the companion, but I'm thinking back on a lot of things. I'm thinking back to dealing with Stephen Moffat. I'm thinking Clara, because in Asylum of the Daleks was there a splinter, but kind of, and there were other characters that were kind of, because they were splinters of Clara. And now it kind of seems like, we've just done the same thing there. And even Stephen Moffat has gone, yes, I'm doing it again. But I think, he may have been joking when he said that. But yeah, he did it again.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. It was kind of interesting. Somebody did ask, I think, Moffat whether they would meet another splinter of Clara. And he decided not to, but he let them do it in the comic strip.
Right.
So they did a comic strip, which took place in the same Antarctic South Pole base where the 10th planet took place on, and they found another Clara.
Yeah. Another thing, a Moffat thing, was, we're talking about the military. We're talking about military priests. In the Matt Smith story, Time and the Angels, Flesh and Stone, he had the Weeping Angels in war with the military clerics. And in this one, we have the Anglican Marines. So another homage to something he's done before. Did you guys notice in the credits, in the opening credits, when it's just like flitting by on the bottom of the screen, Stephen Moffat was actually an executive producer on this episode?
I noticed that too.
Yeah, he wasn't any of this episode. He was, and I thought that was kind of cool. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was, this was in the trailer, and this might have been what you were talking about in a way, Juan. There was a trailer that was released on Friday morning or Thursday night, where he said that he had an idea for a story where the Doctor loses the one thing that he never has in any story ever, and that's what causes the problem. He wanted to get us to guess what that thing was before we watched the episode. Was he talking about the companion, or was he talking about something else? Think about it. Go ahead. Come on, comment on that one. Think of something. Is it the companion that he didn't have, that he's never had? Because I think he's had episodes where there was no companion. Deadly Assassin. So what was it that he was missing?
I don't know. I think he might have been just missing his cool. I didn't.
Well, he kept his cool. He would have blown up if he didn't keep his cool. He totally was holding it together.
Well, he struggled with losing it, though.
Yeah.
He was losing it a little bit.
He started to. Yeah, it was almost at the end. Yeah. And that may be as simple as it was. And like you said, the fact of the genesis of the Dalek reference with the mine, and it took a couple of minutes to get out of there, and it took the whole episode here. I did like that. I did like the fact that we were on basically one set. Going with another, not a supposal, but another trivia thing. The Doctor, when he was on the mine, started singing the Skyboat song.
Told you there was music in this episode.
Yeah. That song is also the theme of the television series Outlander, based on the books by Diana Gabaldon, who is a self-confessed Doctor Who fan. And the story of Outlander deals partly with a Scottish Highlander named Jamie Fraser, nod to the character James McCrimmon, who played by Fraser Hines. So it was kind of nice that we had a song that kind of kind of not Doctor Who, but kind of had a connection to Doctor Who. And what did you think of blindness being a terminal condition?
Yeah, that was kind of, but then again, that's the whole thing of the algorithm. You have to, keep war to make it profitable, or keep war at a level where it's profitable. I think somebody else investigated it in a novel, but I'm not sure, because it was just dealing with the commercial. It might have been also dealing with a similar theme of the commercialization of war. So, I guess maybe in blindness, they're probably doing a cost outlay ratio to cost benefits ratio to see if it would benefit to heal Vader.
It was stated, he said that the ambulances got updated, and he goes, the money didn't come through. So definitely any injury would have been out of the algorithm, would have caused a killing. In fact, that's probably, speaking of that, and I'm jumping ahead here, when Ruby gets shot. I'm jumping ahead because, we're kind of limited on time here. We're jumping ahead. Ruby gets shot, and ambulance comes to her and said recognized her. The ambulance didn't recognize the Doctor. Ambulance recognized Ruby, saying that she recognizes her as being 3,082 years old, which, by the way, if we're talking timing, makes it 5,086, as she was born in 2004. From Dave, I'm just playing with the numbers here. I'm so anal on this one. I know it's fun. I'm enjoying Doctor Who, but I enjoy being able to think about it again. I couldn't do this in the Chibnall era. I couldn't do this in the Chibnall era.
You're in good company, because I think Stephen Chapansky, I would be, when I listen to Radio Free Scar, it wouldn't surprise me that Stephen Chapansky calculated it, because that's his kind of thing.
And like I said, I jumped ahead. We're going to backtrack. So the Doctor has one foot on the mine and has one foot in the air. I don't think I noticed his foot was in the air until he specifically pointed out. I don't know if we had a wide enough shot to see his leg.
We did initially.
Okay, I missed that shot.
Yeah, you would miss it if you didn't if you turned away for even half a moment.
So he tells Ruby to go get something that's heavy so that he can displace the weight and he can put his foot down. And she, finds not Vader's, Darth Vader. No, not Vader's. It was Vader's body. Okay, it was Vader's body that was just, anyway, I can't even think of the word I'm looking for. Who was melted down into this thing?
His tomb.
Plasma into the tomb, right? So she wants to give it to him. He says, "No, just throw it to me and it'll work." And she goes, "You might not catch it." So she goes. She's going up to him, and the Doctor's like, "No. Go back. I'm ordering. Go back. And he brings it, and he tells her that she's very brave. And if it doesn't work, she's brave if it doesn't work, that she's wonderful. And he forgives her for being incredibly stupid. Now, if it works, he's going to be very cross at her for a long time. Ruby replies, "It won't be that long. You're standing on a landmine." The chemistry between the Doctor and Ruby. And we didn't mention this before. It is a beautiful chemistry. I love the way they react to each other. They actually do love each other.
They've already known each other forever.
And it's been more than 6 months. It's been more than 6 months.
But, you know, even before that, from almost the moment they met, it was instantaneous, like they had been best friends since childhood. There was an instant rapport. There was an instant relaxation. It was very easy with them. They just kind of had fun together. They smiled together. And, you know, if you've ever had that with another human being, it's just so nice to have.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And she is very much her own person. So I love the way that she knows what she wants. She knows her mind. She's not obnoxiously so.
Right.
She just knows. And she's like, well, here's what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to help you do it because this is what I do. This is me. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Hey, you got it. I have a question about the landmine. What did the landmine doesn't have explosives in it. It uses quantum energy from the DNA to do the detonation.
Yeah.
And for humans, it would blow you up like a regular landmine. But for a Time Lord who is a higher dimensional life form, a complex space-time event, hoity-toity, making himself look big, he would be a much bigger bang than they bargained with and a lot more explosive than he looks.
I like
and
that.
Honey, I know how I look. Put a quantum chain reaction through me, and I will shatter this silly little battlefield of yours into dust.
I like the way he was going to take half the planet with him.
Shooty makes anything sexy. Doesn't even getting blown up. Wow. He's got a great personality. Ruby wasn't there on his own. He exudes passion and everything. It's beautiful. Snow. I see snow again, guys. Talk about the snow.
There is something there. There is something we're going to learn. Again, there is something special about Ruby. There's something we're going to learn. I'm telling it, just somewhere in this season, there is something we are going to see and we are going to learn. It is the big mystery. Well, I guess we have two big mysteries. There's the mystery of Ruby and there is the mystery of the Pantheon.
Yeah.
And so, and it's so much fun in this season of Doctor Who of, you know, what's going to happen next, what we're going to see next, what are they going to throw at this next? And I want to backtrack for just a second.
Because, okay, go ahead.
I grew up military, and so a lot of, you know, something like the commercialization of war is something that would come up in conversation and has come up more recently now. And it is very fascinating. Look at this, because this is, of course, is the extreme of what would happen. And it's hard not to think about it because, of course, I look at the ambulances and I think about the expose that Nader did on Pintos, equating how much does it cost to lose a human life, and is it worth fixing the car, because the human life will cost us this much money in a lawsuit versus fixing the car. Okay, I know it's a really old study, but but all of us here understand that one. And it just, you know, the idea of the capitalization of war and what that means. And of course, you know, I won't talk about the twist at the end yet, but the twist at the end, I'm just, it just gets you. And this episode, which has some humor and has some music and is the most poignant of all the ones we've had so far, I really love this episode for different reasons than I love the other ones.
when we were talking about the snow, while it was snowing, the doctor made a comment, where there is snow, there is hope. And then the snow stopped in midair, and ambulance said that Ruby was 432 seconds away from being deceased. And okay, the doctor said he was a complex space-time event. Nah, I think his companion is the complex space-time event here. And again, something we keep saying, something is going on here. What about using John Francis Vader, his AI, as a Trojan horse?
Oh, now I get the joke. I only saw it this morning. I like that. That was an interesting science fiction solution to the problem, because once he saw how the algorithm worked, he was able to hack into it, shut it down, shut down the war, and because there was no point to it. So I think that was, in fact, he was essentially turned into an AI. So he's turned into all bits and ones, compressed into that thing that is what his remains are. But even though he's an AI, dead is dead, and I think that's something that Splice has to accept.
Well, hold on about that. Remember, they are all religious people. It's an Anglican Marine, and the doctor is telling Splice, I am so sorry. And Splice goes, "Why are you sorry?" And he goes, "Because your father's gone." "Oh no, my father's not gone. He's just dead." They have a different way of looking at death. This society. I don't think she needs to understand death more. I think this is how they're taught in their society. And actually, that's a nice way to think about it. And, they're never gone as long as you have memories. Maybe that's what it was. I don't think Splice accepted her dad's death earlier when she was looking at the images of the photographs of where they were. She knew he was dead. She totally got over that, in my opinion.
The thing is, we don't know if is that how Mundy looked at it, because we were only seeing it from a child's point of view, and she might not have been. Unfortunately, look, I've had this argument with a friend. Unfortunately, dead is dead.
Yeah.
You don't get him. I mean, the thing is, even if you do believe in a concept of an afterlife, you can't hang out with them in a meaningful way.
You can hang out with the AI. You can hang out with the AI.
The AI.
It doesn't feel like it'd be something that you would.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's just not the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, religious types are sometimes a little extreme. Maybe this is an extreme. Anyway, I see your point. Dead is dead. You're right. At the very end, the doctor tells them, Splice and Mundy, that he'll be coming back, a few times, and tells them to have fish fingers and custard ready because, that's his favorite.
Yes.
Oh, Stephen, we miss you. But this, I think, coming back, maybe that's how the character of Mundy, or the actress Vanessa, comes back on the show next season by one of his visits. Possibly. Maybe that was a setup for that. I don't know. But the final words as the Doctor and Ruby went back into the TARDIS: "Snow, we all melt away in the end, but something stays. Maybe the best part." And then he ends it with, "A sad old man once told me, what survives us is love." How do you not like this show? The people who are complaining, and I have to say something. The people who are complaining probably went, "See, I told you we should have had Stephen back than Russell," because I'm sure that's what they're saying right now, because this was probably a very important and very serious episode. But I don't understand it. This is Doctor Who. Things change. You don't like a doctor, you do like a doctor, but the writing that is going on right now is probably some of the best writing I've had in a while. And yes, possibly because I thought Chibnall did not, but some of the episodes were not bad. So I think we're in a new era, and I think this is great. And I really don't understand, except haters hate, right? I can't think of anything else. Now, I did notice something on the trailer for next week. It looks like the same cliff. It is the same cliff they filmed on that Jodie changed into David Tennant. Is that supposed to be the same place? And if it is, what? And I'm not going to ask you the question, but what does that mean, folks? It's the same cliff. It's the cliff where Jodie changed into David, 13 changed into 14. It's very interesting, I thought. Okay, so any final thoughts on Boom?
Great science fiction story, great tension story. I think it was, I was engaged through it, and I was engaged throughout. I think I'll be honest, I think it's the best one of the series so far. Not to say that the previous 3 were bad, it's just that this one sticks out a little bit more.
Yeah.
I agree with Juan. For different reasons. I like each of them for different reasons. This one hit me on so many different points. I'm going to put it at my favorite.
Okay. Well, I have to say something. I do think this is the best of the bunch so far. But Stephen Moffat wrote it, and what happened to me when I went back to watch RTD's first era, because I had a convention panel to do, I remembered that I cried at least once in every single episode. Stephen hit it. I started tearing up during Boom. I'm not going to go into it, but it did happen.
Oh, no,
it did happen. Okay. Before we go, folks, I want to bring something up. Now, I mentioned Susan Twist. Susan Twist is an actress. She has appeared as Mrs. Merridew in Wide Blue Yonder, as the guy who, the woman who was talking to Isaac Newton. In The Church on Ruby Road, she was a woman at the concert who asked for a specific song. Space Babies, she was comms officer Gina Scalzi. Devil's Court, she was the tea lady. Boom, she played the ambulance. From what I saw in the trailer, she's in 73 Yards. Looking ahead, no spoiler, Hiker, how is that spoiling anything? And I'm assuming there are more episodes to come. We have another mystery. We said Ruby was a mystery. We said Pantheon is a mystery. Twist is another mystery, unless she ties into one of the other 2 that we've just mentioned. I am actually looking very forward to finding out more, because you know what? Maybe Susan Twist is the twist at the end. Had to get that joke in there.
Interesting.
Okay, folks. That's the end of our first episode of our coverage of Doctor Who 2023 Season 1. We're going to have more of this. We're going to take a break for the next couple of weeks, because I know Vicky is going to the jolly old place herself. She's going to Great Britain to participate in Lawless, a comic book convention put on by the 77 Publications, which we are part of because we do a show with them called MarkWHO42. It's kind of like an infomercial for their comics, but it's also an interview and podcast type show as well. So we'll be doing, she'll be going there. She's going to actually record some of it. We'll hopefully, go to the 77 Publications. Go to them on YouTube. It's youtube.com at the 77 Publications. You can watch MarkWHO77. We've got some great interviews there. You can go to MarkWHO42.com to get all our old episodes. If you want our classic episodes, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com at MarkWHO42. We've got shows all the way back to 2012. But like I said, we're going to take a few weeks off, and then we're going to cover, I think, the next 3 episodes. Is that what we're doing? The next 3 weeks of the next 3 episodes? Think so. And then we'll do the last 2 in their own episode as well. So until next time, I'm Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, Juan Sanmiguel. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
And you'll hear from all of us next time here on MarkWHO42's Whoniverse, Universe, whatever we're calling it this time. Bye, everyone. You've been listening to the MarkWHO42's Universe podcast, or as it's simply known, MarkWHO42's Universe. Hosting the show were Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, Zion Kiros, and Juan Sanmiguel. If you'd like to leave a comment for us, please email us at markwho42.42@gmail.com. MarkWHO42's Universe, copyright 2024.